What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the final NECC game of the night. I'm still Septilence, joined now by my good friend and co-caster Jag to bring you Boise State once again, but this time it's the orange team going up against UCD.
Yeah, and this is kind of a good look at the teams a bit lower in the Gladiator division. Unfortunately, neither of these teams coming out with a positive record. Boise State Orange, we saw them last week at this exact same time with the exact same casters. It was a close matchup. There were some maps that seemed really winnable for them, but they did drop that 0-3. UC Davis, they have not been able to pick up a win at all this season. They're coming in 0-5. Boise State, they've found one win along the way, but there's a lot of similarities beyond just their win-loss record. Both of them lost to Boise State Blue, Fresno State, and Midland. So right now, UC Davis, this might be their best chance at winning a match. And Boise State Orange, this might be their best chance at winning another match this season.
Yeah, absolutely. UC Davis, they want to put a win on the board. Unfortunately, they have not been as lucky to do so. And they do have a substitution coming in today. Onizuka coming in, I believe, for Juicy Steak in that DPS department. So maybe that makes the difference, right? Maybe we're going to see a little bit more high-quality DPS gameplay. Of course, not to insult Juicy Steak. I've never seen them play. But maybe Onizuka is kind of the missing puzzle piece that UC Davis needs to finally put a win under their belts.
We have heard that Juicy Steak is a very proficient Echo and that she's got a bit of a fan club, so I'm sure that the people wanting to see her play for UC Davis are going to be a bit disappointed by that tonight, but you never know. You put someone new into the mix, maybe they just have a better hero pool for the meta, maybe they're just a bit more flexible. We're not sure. We also know that they're a support player as well as a DPS player. They're coming up from the JV squad of UC Davis, so you never know. Like, when it's your time to shine in the spotlight, this might be your best moment. You might have an amazing game when the pressure's on you.
Absolutely, and just a little note before we jump into game, you folks may get a little bit confused, so keep an eye on the names, because Boise Orange has a player named Frost, and UC Davis has a player named Frost E, and they are both in the DPS department, so keep an eye on that. That make it a little bit confusing as we move forward. But, oh, by the way, you are not seeing double. This is a new Boise team. Boise Blue just played right before this, but yeah, we're not going to see Boise Orange right after. As Jag mentioned, same casters, same time slot.
Yeah, and last week, again, like, talked about this just a few seconds ago, but they actually looked pretty good. Like Boise State Orange, they did lose 0-3, but especially those last two maps, I feel like on Control, they were a bit dicey. But I remember, especially on Dorado, they were so close to stealing that one map away. It is a first to two, but you play out all three maps anyway for differential. So even winning that last map, just kind of getting one more map to their plus-minus record on the season, that could have been a huge motivation. They couldn't get it done, but today I'm sure they're going to be going for all three maps.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, they were quite literally like less than a meter away from winning Dorado, and then they unfortunately, and then they were full held, or not full held, they were held right before that final point. It was very, very close. The final score, I think, was 3-2, give or take. I don't know, but yeah, they lost like less than a meter away, and then one ultimate didn't go their way, and they kind of crumbled underneath. Like you said, incredibly close. The first game, I remember the first map didn't exactly go in their favor, but now the second and third of last week were much closer, so maybe they're able to bring that same heat today with a brand new map pool. First map of the night is going to be Ilios. That'll be followed by Eichenwald, and that will bring us into our third and final map, which is going to be Watchpoint Gibraltar.
Yeah, and you know, not only is the map pool changing, but the starting lineup right now for Boise State Orange is changing as well. I remember that Nerdy Bird did come in last week, but they were not the starter in that support lineup. So the fact that they're in today makes me think maybe they're trying to play a bit more Lucio. If you remember, I think they played a lot of Lucio last time around. So it's interesting that they're trying to start with someone else. So both teams kind of bringing in someone who's in more of a sub role as the first person on a map. So it's going to be interesting to see if those changes work out for either team. We already talked about it for UC Davis, but Boise State, they're going to be trying to change up their formula as well here.
Yeah, they're definitely going to look to change up their formula a little bit. We touched on that. Like you said, Nerdy Bird going to be brought in. I believe you're correct when you talk about that Lucio coming through from Nerdy Bird. I recall them doing a great job, and there were a couple of beats here and there, I believe. Weirdly enough, I believe I recall them getting taken out by taking out pre-beat and then getting a couple great ones off as well. But now Nerdy Bird's going to have to bring the heat, as the rest of Boise Orange will have to.
Yeah, I guess the question is, can Boise State Orange can they be clutch? That was their biggest thing. I mean, we talked about how Dorado ended, how it was so close, just a few meters away. It was always that one or two fights that just didn't swing in their favor that cost them the entirety of the series. That was the same story. It didn't matter what map you were looking at. It was the same chapter, just different chapter number, after it. So if they can come out tonight and they can put away games when they need to, I think it should be in their favor. But UC Davis, they might be a bit more hungry because they do not want to end this season winless.
Yeah, ending this season winless is not anywhere a team wants to be, like you said. So they want to get at least one win under their belt, whether or not they can kick it up for the map differential if they're able to bring the heat perhaps a little bit more consistently. We can only hope that they walk away with a victory somewhere along the way, because things are definitely not looking good for them so far. But a couple, they've been 3-0'd 4 times, but up against JW Blue, it looks like they were able to get some value. It was only 1-2 that time around, and hopefully they're able to really bring things back.
Yeah, I gotta wonder, we looked at the preseason. Boise State Orange actually did pretty well then. I mean, they beat Champlain Varsity, they beat Georgia State. They actually beat Champlain Varsity again in the regular season. That's the only win they've had so far. It was the same exact result. UC Davis, they didn't compete in the preseason at all. So I think, sometimes you don't have that practice. It can be a little bit of a rough start to the season. They've only been able to take that one map, like you said, against JW Blue. And I wonder if, they had those 2 extra games, maybe 3 extra games during the preseason to kind of get themselves into the swing of things, if they'd be staring at this record right now. I know that, collegiately, there's a lot of different stuff going on. So maybe they were committed to another tournament or league at the time, but they didn't have that extra practice coming into this. And look where they find themselves right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be moving into Ilios well as our first stage of the Ilios map. It's going to be, of course, I'd expect to see perhaps a lot of Lucio, and other than that, I would expect some variation of Double Bubble. But these players, they love to prove me wrong. If you were watching the cast of Neely and I earlier, I think we were like 1-8 for predictions, so I could be wrong here.
And that's why you bring me in, right? I'm the closer and I'm the correct predictor. But, if I was a betting man, I would say that Boise State Orange has a bit of an advantage. But I'm also never one to count out against the underdog. So as we see these lineups roll through, Boise State Orange, they're running something that I would expect a lot more here. I feel like Ilios in general is very chaotic, but especially here on Well, there's a lot of chaos comps you can run. Running a Wrecking Ball, and Echo, a Tracer, you can just kind of roll around people and then find a lot of one-tap potential. For UC Davis, they're going to be running what's more meta right now. They're going to be running that Brawl, and it can work against a Chaos comp if you stick together, but the minute someone splits up from it, they're going to be very weak.
Right, absolutely. You want to stick together, you want to stay close quarters, and honestly, I think looking at Wrecking Ball Diva going up against Ryan Zarya, you're probably going to get rolled a little bit, in all honesty. They've got the McCree flash as well coming out from Onizuka, so even one good flashbang and that Wrecking Ball is going to be sent to spawn before he can even blink.
Depends who the flashbang is used on, though. If you get your Wrecking Ball to roll through and they use that CC too early, it's not going to find anything, especially if it's done onto Icy. But right now, it looks like they're going to be able to demech the Diva, and this is not going so great for Boise State Orange.
Yeah, Quitchable going to not only be demeched, but taken offline as well. Frosty able to find that shot. And I like that Frosty's playing May. I appreciate staying on brand. Able to find a kill onto Icy as well. And the Immortality Field from Fenrir is going to be taken out, but Nerdy Bird, they're going to be the next to fall on the Mercy instead of the Lucio. But now Frost with that laser finds Fenrir in the mix of things, and Frosty picks up Narbles again. That first point cap is going to end in favor of UC Davis.
It is indeed, and they're building up ultimates too. The biggest thing is that they need that Ant Matrix online as soon as possible. You want to play the back of the point and just be able to kind of spam away. Obviously, you want to enable your Rhine as well, but without the Nano, you really can't do as much from a support lineup standpoint. You can speed them in. That's about it. So Ecal maybe isn't going to be swinging for the fences here, especially against a comp that's so quick and fast like the one on the side of Boise State. We're going to be there for protection.
Yeah, Boise State struggling to get back onto point quite like they want to. We're going to hear Narbles commit a pulse bomb pretty early in the fight here, not able to find any of the stick, and now they're going to be rotating up around onto the high ground. That's the beauty of playing kind of that Diva Winston matchup, is they can both utilize high ground a lot more than a lot of other tanks are able to. Now moving forward, we see Echo is able to find Icy. Frost is gone. Narbles is gone. So things looking good all over again for UC Davis. We hear the Shatter come out from Echo, but unfortunately it's not. I don't think it's going to find anybody, as that fight was already quite won.
Yeah, it doesn't find anything. It's just kind of a little bow on top of that fight being won. I think the problem there for Boise State is you don't want to engage on a close space against a brawl comp when you're not running it yourself. Now they're going to be swapping to their own sort of brawl comp. Frost on the Sombra. We saw this a lot last time, and remember they said that the team they lost to last week said that Frost was kind of the biggest problem they had, so we'll see if it can be a difference maker here.
Yeah, absolutely. We want that somewhere to make a huge difference. And Icy swapping out of the Reinhardt may be a good call, but you're so far behind in terms of ult charge and just against the rest of the team. And Echo is the only one that had commit their ultimate in the last fight. The Blizzard now coming out as well, but Icy goes to charge out of the Blizzard and charges right off the map. Unfortunately, Oompa Loompa able to clean up after it. There is no Reinhardt around, and Fenrir able to pick up Frost as well. So the Sombra not working for that initial fight with only 10 seconds left on the clock. I'm not sure we're going to see really any kind of turnaround here from Boise Orange.
Yeah, if you want to make wholesale swaps, it has to happen in the first about 30 seconds of a match. The Wild ends up falling. I'm not sure what happens there, but the Graviton Surge is going to come out just to try to zone everyone out. High Noon doesn't actually find out Pleb, but ends up falling anyway, and it looks like this is going to be the end on this map, or this point at least, for Boise State Orange. Yeah, it looks like this stage is going to end here in favor of UC Davis. Boise Orange, they unfortunately are going to get 100 owed on Ilios well, and they're probably just kind of in a well scenario, GG go next, but it's going to have to be moving into either Lighthouse or Ruins, which will call for, at least in my opinion, 2 different team comps. Yeah, absolutely. I think if we go Well, there could be a brawl on ruins as well. I think dive works a bit better here than it would on Lighthouse. We'll see what these teams are to come out with. I think though Boise State Orange is probably realizing, this did not work. We're not going to try dive once again. Let's just stick with our brawl comp. Now that they have Frost on the Sombra for a much longer period of time, I think this can work a lot better. EMP, you need to charge it so quickly. Otherwise, you're not really finding a lot of value. And the biggest thing, again, if you're playing Sombra, always, is you gotta hack out the Reinhardt in this composition. That or the Baptiste, maybe, because then there's no mortality field online. But if you hack out the Reinhardt and get rid of their shield, it's going to be so good for your team just to walk in and kill them.
Yeah, no doubt. And like you said, as Sombra, my most critical comment for a lot of Sombras that I see while casting is you've got to be farming that EMP. That is the strongest ultimate in the game. That is what her character is all about. You need to be getting that way more consistently than we see a lot of Sombras do that here. But Frost, as I'm saying, already 25% there. So if they keep up that momentum, that's seemingly an EMP roughly, I don't know, every 25 seconds, and that's pretty insane when you think about it. But right now, it looks like they're going to have to give up just a little bit as Narbles is able to secure a double kill, and already things looking a lot better for Boise Orange.
Yeah, it's going to be a slow cap, so they're not going to get as much point percentage out of this as they could have, as they only left Nerdy Bird on it, but they get the point regardless. And look at where Frost is setting up right now. I was just trying to find a hack in the backline. I think right now that UCD, they realize this. UC Davis does not want to be involved with this at all, so they are trying to just walk away from the Sombra. It looks like we might be having a pause come out soon, but for now the fighting is going to continue.
Yeah, looks like the fight will continue, as I believe the pause has to be, the fight has to be ended for a pause to come through. I believe that is usually the rules in tournaments such as this one. Inquisible just going to clean things up here. UC Davis, I believe, may have lost somebody. I'm not quite sure what happened there.
Yeah, there might have been a DC. They might have had someone lose connection to the server. Not sure. No one's left the lobby as far as we know, but we do know that they were.
Oh, it's Onizuka.
And so Onizuka, unfortunately, is the one who is not there right now. And we asked if this person coming in as a sub could do well, and I think their McCree was pretty good on the last point of Ilios, but here I think the whole team is just struggling quite a bit. And Quidjapult has got a 3K on Diva. That's crazy. They still have their self-destruct. Everything is going right now for Boise State Orange. They've really found their footing now that they've committed to the brawl comp fully instead of trying to run, the Winston or the Wrecking Ball.
Right, like we talked about very early on, is that those swaps, you need to be doing it in the first 30 seconds or probably not doing it at all, but now this time they just come out on the Rhine right away. So they don't make that mistake, they don't go to play a different tank, they just come out on that Rhine Diva, and it looks like things are going to be checking out just a little bit. We're going to have to wait a while here for Onizuka to, unfortunately, it seems, check their internet. I think they full crashed on us, unfortunately.
Yeah, and while we got a little bit more time, we can talk a little bit more about when to swap and when not to. It's one of my favorite things to talk about as a color caster, just because there's a lot of strategy that really goes into it. The thing about Control is it's so much faster paced than every other map type. You have much less time to do it. So first fight, maybe around 30%. I feel like that's when you have to kind of give up what you have and try swapping, because if you hold on to things for too long, even if you have your ultimate and you're just like, eventually this will get value, 9 out of 10 times it never ends up getting value. It's different on escort or hybrid when it's timed and there's a lot more time you can work with. There 2 minutes is usually your stop gate. Like if it's not working after 2 minutes and you're the attackers, that's when you got to swap things up. Sometimes teams that are really, really, really good, teams that are like an Overwatch League contenders, they can do it with a minute 30 left just because they're building up ultimates pretty quickly. But I mean, the goal is to have a full ult bank by the time you get to that last fight scenario. And if it's just you getting, bulldozed over and over again, there's no reason to swap. This time, Boise State Orange, they don't even have to swap because they just came out with the better comp off the get-go, or at least they're playing this a bit better right now. I mean, we talked about Frost and the Sombra, but really it's been Quidjapult and Marbles who have been, I think, the leaders so far on this point.
I definitely agree. Like you said, we talked about, Frost, you need that EMP, but if there's nobody to EMP, it's a lot less important because Narbles and Quidjapult, respectively, have been doing a phenomenal job so far on this Diva and McCree. We're going to be jumping back into the fray of things here on Ilios, and it looks like we may be going to a stage 3 here on Ilios, but it's going to be looking like Oompa Loompa and Echo are going to be moving forward. Quidjapult and Icy trying to push in a little bit more consistent because the Diva Rhine does get a little bit more value long distance, but as Icy and Quidjapult both find an elimination, that's going to be even better for them. They've got nearly 6 ultimates online. Here comes an Amp Matrix. Here comes a Diva Bomb, and Quidjapult not able to find anything. Both immortality fields offline, actually taken out by the other Baptiste, so that's kind of fun. But now it looks like those immortality fields are gone. The Diva Bomb was committed, but it looks like they're going to have a lot more ultimates on the side of Boise Orange.
Yeah, the only reason they committed that self-destruct was just to get the mech back. They knew it wasn't going to get value. They just needed to make sure they stayed in the fight because they're going to have everything out here.
It's going to be the EMP into the triple high noon. Narbles finds the 3K, and the EMP, if you are unaware, literally does not let you use any ability in the game. You can only use your primary or secondary fire, and there it goes. That is a complete and total team kill. Great coordination from Frost and Narbles. A bit of an overcommitment there from Icy on the Shatter, so they may have not talked about who was following up on the EMP, and that may cost them the next fight.
It might, because look at the ultimates right now on the side of UC Davis. They have everything and then some, except for the sound barrier, which is the only thing that they're actually going to have on the other side. But they need to touch the point. There's only 6 seconds left, and they're not even positioned to actually get there. They do touch it, so I think that is going to trigger overtime regardless, and that's going to be the Shatter.
I'm not positive, but I believe overtime triggers in the final 5 seconds. Also, Quidgeable 8. Oh, and Quidgeable 8 too. Wait, 8 both the Blizzard and the grab. So Quidgeable really trying to keep the team alive. Gets Frosty out of there as well, and somebody touches on point, but that is hardly going to matter here. A phenomenal job. I mean, I hope Quidgeable is hungry because they're getting fed like crazy right now.
Quidgeable was the hard carry on this map. Triple kill earlier, 2 eats in a row. The Graviton Surge and the May Blizzard. It looked so good there for Frosty and co, but you got to remember, if you're going to go for that Blizzard, you have to freeze the Diva every time, because one little DM swing could put it complete end to your ultimate, and that's exactly what happened there.
Yeah, that was just a phenomenal job. And like you said, if you're throwing a Blizzard into a team that has a Diva, she has to be frozen, or you are quite literally throwing that ultimate, because she will eat it up 9 out of 10 times. And, you know, maybe Quidgeable's going to be coming out stronger than ever, because he knows if he plays well enough, then he'll start to get fed a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the momentum, right? We always talk about this in any esport. Honestly, momentum is such an important thing, because even if you are the less mechanically skilled player, even if you have less SR and competitive, if you are on fire one day, there is nothing that can stop you. Quidgeable has come out of the gate after a not so great first point, but that point, it was all of them all the time. Both teams gonna be running the same things once again. Actually, we're gonna see Frost go to the May, so no more Sombra, and I'd really like this because you can cut off choke points very easily.
Yeah, also Narbles hit a 4-man flashbang there. There was just nobody getting killed off the back of it. So, like you said, I think the May is going to be a great choice here from both teams. And also the Symmetra from Onizuka is going to force Icy to just play that giant rectangle, because if you give that Symmetra an opportunity... Wow, that's the second time supports have done that. Both Lucia's getting a boop onto a DPS on the opposing team, and a wall coming out from Frosty now trying to clean up after, but a 5v5. A Shatter already from Ekel is going to be able to find a little bit of damage to charge onto Icy there, and Quidgeable takes out Ekel. So it's going to be just a lot of damage coming back and forth. Both Immortality Fields gone again, and it looks like this fight could still end in favor of either team. Oompa Loompa able to find the DMEC and the Immortality Field. Quidgeable finds one, Narbles finds another. Frosty was able to take out Frost, but the aggression coming out here is nothing short of insane from both these teams. But Oompa Loompa looks like they may be the carry, but no, it's going to be Narbles on the McCree, who's going to be able to come back in the nick of time and prevent it from coming out. And Frosty's killed! The Blizzard doesn't make it out!
Narbles has the immediate reaction to kill them. The May Blizzard never hits the floor, and it's still going. Icy has their Shatter, but they're the only person alive. Wild has been alive this entire time, and the sound barrier is just a little bit late from Nerdy Bird. We saw that happen last week, too.
Yeah, we saw that just a little bit late. It's not going to be able to make it out in time, and that just needs to go. Literally, pixels, frames earlier in Ecal there wasn't able to do much, as now they're going to be caught on point, stuck in the Blizzard from Frost. They're going to be able to charge out. Oompa Loompa already finding a double of their own. Here comes the bomb from Quidgeable, not going to find anything except a free mech for that Diva player at the end of the day. And after a fight, a minute and a half deep, we finally get somebody capping point.
Yeah, it's like both teams are just going to completely reset their ult economies after that. It looked a little bit better right now for Boise State. They've got the Shatter, they've got the High Noon already unlocked, but they used everything there, and those ultimates are going to be online very shortly for UC Davis as well. I think it's just that Wild lived. Wild was never killed throughout that entire time.
Yeah, Wild just got to live, and they got to really take full advantage of that. Here comes one Shatter into another there, so nobody's actually going to be taken out from them quite yet. We see a charge coming out from Ecal and a High Noon from Narbles. High Noon isn't going to be able to pick up anything. We see Ecal getting frozen up. Here's another High Noon from Onizuka. It finds two. Narbles and Pleb are going to be taken out of here. Quidgeable is going to be DMEC. There goes Nerdy Bird. That's going to force a full reset once again from the side of Boise State Orange.
And there just was no focus fire there. Ecal, double stun there, but double CC locked. First, the freeze from the May, then follows up with the flashbang, and they still somehow live through all of that. If you're Boise State Orange, you really have to make sure that you're taking out the Reinhardt when they're that vulnerable. That time it did not work out, and that's a big part of why they lost that fight.
Yeah, I know, definitely. Like you said, just no focus fire. That's really all they needed. And, of course, that sounds easy, just shoot forehead. But they really do need to focus up their focus fire here because, unfortunately, if they cannot focus down targets, they are going to end up losing this. And they're almost able to take out ECAL, who actually got stuck on top of Frost's wall. But now, here comes an Amp Matrix, able to take out the Immortality Field. Both Immos now offline. And here comes a massive grab from Oompa Loompa all over again. This could be a disaster. Frost just 3% away, make it 0% away from a Blizzard. May have to commit it here, but it looks like they may be able to win this fight without it. Frost is able to find ECAL, and now that's going to be a cap in favor of Boise Orange all over again.
And Wild could have contested that for a little bit longer, but ends up just running right into the Reinhardt swinging, so no stall potential there, but still one fight territory for UC Davis if they win this next one. They don't have a ton of ultimates just yet, and they also just used the Graviton Surge recently. I think this is a fight you just take on the chin, you let the other team win it, you let Boise State have this one, you just get ultimates out. I think that's the biggest thing. If you get them to overcommit, it works out so well for you, and then you can take the next fight and win the map.
Yeah, I know, it's not like if you lose this fight, you lose the map, right? So you want to try to get some commitment out of them, but instead, we're just going to see UC Davis push in and overcommit themselves, committing 3 ultimates here, and now they're going to see the beat coming out from Nerdy Bird. A little bit late, but this time it does manage to keep all 6 members alive, even if just for a moment, and now Icy with the Shatter, able to find Frosty, take them out of there. The Mace have been traded, Fenrir gone as well, Icy going to be the next to fall. There's Wild, there's Narbles, there's Quidgeable, Onizuka with a great fan there, and Nerdy Bird going to be that 6th and final elimination, flipping things back in favor of UC Davis. I'm not sure if Boise's going to be able to make it back in time.
And they swapped the Wrecking Ball. They might be able to stall out for just a little bit. You see where they were, 10 seconds left. They will be able to get there, but will Icy be able to stay alive long enough for the rest of the team to get there as well? All they have is Narbles High Noon. I think you got to try to set them up on the high ground and maybe catch them off guard with it.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. High Noon could be huge if you catch them off guard in the back line. Narbles, like you said, the only ultimate they're going to have online for a moment. The Amplification Matrix not far behind. Here comes Narbles. Is it off the high ground? It looks like we're going to hear one coming out from Onizuka as well. Narbles is able to find one. Onizuka finds one. Wild takes Pleb out of the fight, the main support. Now missing for Boise State, and it's going to be a disaster as Frost is taken out as well. 99% online. Narbles and Nerdy Bird trying to turn it around, but Wild's going to be faster. Oompa Loompa is able to take out Narbles as well. Icy, the sole survivor, going to get solo grounded. I just have to compliment Oompa Loompa on that Zarya. Absolute carry there on Lighthouse.
I feel like these off-tank players for both teams have just been immaculate thus far in this series. It is early on, so we might see more players step up along the way, but I agree with you. I mean, both of them have just done a stunning job. Just looking at the map story, last one, all D.Va this time, all Zarya. And at the end of the day, it's going to be all UC Davis on the scoreboard as they take this first map. Going up 1-0, but, it was not an easy one to get. They really had to sweat at certain points during this map, but I gotta say, you were coming in saying, we've been wrong on predictions today, and now I guess I have also joined in on that curse because I thought Boise State would have it. They did not, but it's also great to see when the underdog rises to the occasion.
Yeah, of course. Any of you that may be familiar with me casting knows I love an underdog story, right? I love to see a team come back kind of from the depths of the jaws of defeat, and UC Davis, they just might be able to do that here tonight.
And if they keep playing like this, I don't see why not. I think that, Boise State, they try to pull out some wacky compositions because, the Sombra can work, but realistically, it's not fitting into a brawl very well. It works a little bit on Ruins, but overall, it was really the D.Va that helped carry that entire point. So I think maybe just try to mirror, maybe just try running a Reaper instead. Reaper has really come back into the meta. McCree kind of took a spot in the May Brawl comp for a bit because of all those buffs and all the Reaper nerfs. But Reaper now does a bit more damage, can still be that tank buster that players know and love. So maybe that gives you a bit momentum, especially in Eichenwald, where there are certain parts of the map that are very close cornered, or there's just no way to get out, like the bridges. You can't really go to the side because then you fall off the map. That could be a great way to just kind of run into an enemy team with a Reaper.
Yeah, absolutely. And Reaper just recently, not really nerfed or buffed, but perhaps a little bit of a buff. Not that tank buster that he used to be, but his damage does, or his shots do a little bit more damage at a further distance. So that may be great to keep in mind as well. We're going to be moving into our next matchup, or our same matchup, but our next map, rather, going to be on Eichenwald. And UC Davis, they may be starting on the defense, but I'm not sure if sides have been swapped quite yet. Either way, I'm curious if we're going to see maybe a different DPS line. Sombra might make a little more sense here, but at the same time, it has, as stupid as this sounds, like it has to work to be successful. So if you're not running a comp that can really utilize that Sombra, then that may not be the best pick here either.
Yeah, and that's what I was just saying. I don't think it's the right pick. I don't think you run the Sombra anywhere. I think it can work on control just because of where you are on the map. In control, you're always running head-to-head right into each other. But when it comes to escort, hybrid, those kind of maps, I mean, there's so many different places you can be playing. Obviously, there's the cart, and that's where a majority of the people will be, but there can always be someone hiding in the shadows trying to go for that flank, trying to go for that lurk. So when you're Somber, you're going to be that person who's lurking around, and you might miss the entire fight because you're trying to set up in a position that helps you get the best hack off. So I
Yeah.
feel like you just kind of run away from that. Maybe go back to the Echo Tracer. That could work in certain parts
Right.
of Viking
Right.
World if you really want to run something different than Brawl, because it still works out well. You can still melt people, but I think they've got to find, a pretty similar mirror. It doesn't have to be the exact same, but I think Reinhardt is kind of just the go-to main tank currently.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like you said, Sombra just doesn't fit comfortably into a Brawl comp. I mean, the best case scenario when she does is the use of EMP, which is at most like 3 times a game. So it's really like, you don't want to make that trade-off, especially when there's characters like Echo or like Tracer that can fit even better into that team comp. Reaper perhaps as well if you're really looking to demolish the tank line moving forward. But I do agree, as much as I enjoy watching Sombra gameplay, I don't think she's going to be fitting comfortably here into this comp. And moving into Eichenwald, I hope we see perhaps one of those flyers, perhaps an Echo, perhaps a Pharah, perhaps a Junkrat, one of my favorite characters in the game, as I'm sure a lot of you know, as I never stop talking about him, but I love to see it. This is a pretty good map for him, in particular that third point.
Yeah, the third point he's great at. The rest of the map, so. I think first point he can do some damage, but second point there's just too much high ground for him to really be able to find value. But the third point, he is just so dominant because of all the tight corners. You can just bounce grenades off the walls, and you'll probably find a triple kill off of one. I want to go back to the Pharah though. I think that could actually be a very interesting pick here. We haven't really seen Pharmacy a lot on Eichenwald anymore, but she used to be played on defense a lot. As weird as it sounds, is you usually don't run a Pharmacy on defense because there's a lot of risk of leaving the rest of your team wide open. But because the point is so far back from where the choke actually is, you can just kind of play back from the archway, play around the clock tower, and then rain death from above. So I think that could actually be a great idea. It's just, can't be countered by a good hitscan player. And I feel like both hitscan players that we've seen from either team so far have been pretty dang good.
Yeah, pretty darn impressive in their uses of High Noon. I just know that they would shift those over almost exclusively for the Pharmacy when necessary, because that's what a lot of McCrees do. They just hold it until that Pharah shows her head, take her out of the sky with that guaranteed shot, and now I'm very excited to see what's going to be coming out, because like you said, Pharah, I love Pharah. I think this would be a great map for her, and that third point in particular has a special place in my heart because I'm both a Reinhardt player and Junkrat player, so I think that would be a lot of fun both ways. So they both really get a lot of great value there as well. And our third map after this one, our guaranteed third map of the night, is Watch Point Gibraltar, which is going to force, I feel, maybe less of a brawl out from these teams. So I'm curious to see who's going to be able to really take the edge forward moving into that map.
Yeah, Gibraltar, that's going to be a dive map until we get to the third point. Then you can swap things up. But as we focus on Eichenwald, we could actually see maybe some dive compositions, especially on second point. Maybe not. Maybe we just see the D.Va Reinhardt instead of Reinhardt Zarya, because D.Va just has such good high ground contest. I feel like she's really valuable just to, make sure that the enemy team on defense doesn't really get to take advantage of the castle, doesn't get to take advantage of all those spaces they get to get into once they respawn. You force them out, you make them feel uncomfortable, the cart keeps moving, then you get to the bridge and everyone's on even ground. I think that's really a good play. Just got to make sure if you're the D.Va not to be too aggressive, because you get stun locked by one thing and all of a sudden you're demacked.
Yeah, absolutely. And the stuns, I mean, as much as people hate them in this game, stuns are a crucial part of it. You've got the flashbang and the shield dash, occasionally the sleep dart. Those are kind of the ones you see most often. Flashbang in particular coming out from McCree very often. And both D.Va and Wrecking Ball kind of suffer from that, where they have to get close to do great, or to have great value. And then, unfortunately, if there's just a McCree or a Brig waiting around the corner, blink of an eye, you can just get shredded.
Yeah, absolutely. Blink and you miss it, and all of a sudden you're dead. You don't even get to see your own death, and that's probably the worst possible part about it. At least it's not like Valorant, right, where you actually can't visibly see the screen. That would make it even worse.
Yeah, very true.
Make it happen. Make it happen for your next hero at some point. Looks like we're still looking for this lobby to load up. Looks like we're having some people just not back at computers just yet. I mean, we saw that UCD won that last night. We kind of talked about going away from the Sombra already, but I'm wondering if there's anything else that Boise State can do to, give themselves a chance in this series.
Yeah, so my initial answer would be something as simple as, go that Pharah, especially in here on Eichenwald, but then it's like, as consistent as we've seen those hit scans today, it's not going to be as easy as it sounds, right? So perhaps maybe going to a slightly more consistent comp, maybe the double bubble, but if you haven't run that, then it's going to be super rough, and then maybe, realistically, I would say consider moving in with the Rein Zarya rather than the Rein D.Va, because Zarya can bubble Reinhardt, you can get a lot more value, and you can cycle through that shatter and that grab as, as the comp is meant to be played. I also think maybe the Lucio beats, we talked about this already, just unfortunately weren't on time like they needed to be, so maybe just a slightly faster reaction time.
Yeah, I agree with that. The sound barriers, we saw they actually overlapped at one point, I noticed, on Lighthouse, but it was still UCD that came out on top of that fight. I think they hit it like a second maybe, or like a half second later and just even that difference maker. Sometimes you want to hit it second, actually. Sometimes you want to have that like shield last a little bit longer. Those can be the difference makers. But I remember there's that one beat at the beginning of Lighthouse in particular that unfortunately Nerdy Bird just was not able to get onto the Reinhardt. If they'd been able to save that Reinhardt here, maybe that point goes completely differently. Maybe they're able to win that one and win Ilios 2-1, and maybe they'll be up 1-0 in the series. But we don't live in a world of maybes. We live in a world of definites. And looks like we're going to be taking a 5-minute break while we try to sort the lobby out. So don't go anywhere, friends. We'll be back with some more Overwatch action in just a little bit.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Sorry about that rather extended break, and we had to get a couple of things figured out behind the scenes, so that left us to try and keep you entertained, but no promises there either. We will be jumping into Eichenwald now on this second map, and we are in that play style of playing all 3 maps, no matter who wins or loses here today.
Yeah, so we could have UCD take the upset victory right here, right now, or our final map could be the deciding factor on Walsh Point Gibraltar a little bit along the way. Regardless, there's going to be a great game of Overwatch here in Germany today, and looking at these compositions off the get-go, we've got the same exact sides as before, and basically the exact same comps as before. It's actually a mirror across the board right now.
Yeah, it is going to be an exact mirror matchup. We've got the Ryan Diva, the Mei McCree, or the Mei Cree, and that Bap Lucio lineup. So this is definitely going to come down to individuals and how well they can play each hero better than their counterpart if they really do want to succeed. And I think, in particular, it's going to come down to not only Mei versus Mei, but really the Ryan versus Ryan.
I agree with that completely. I think the Mei could have a bit of a part of that. I was going to say, if one team's running a Zarya, then their runner has a lot more ability to survive with those projected bubbles. But both of them are going to run the Diva instead. Both of them are going to be looking for the defense matrix to just eat things. So Reinhardt going to be left a little bit out in the wind sometimes here and there. And if I'm not mistaken, it looks like actually for UCD, they've swapped who's playing main tank and off tank.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that as well. Oompa Loompa going to be on the Reinhardt, and Ecal going to be stuck on the Diva here. So definitely a bit of a matchup, but as we saw Oompa Loompa hyper aggressive on that Zarya, probably trying to carry that same energy here onto the Reinhardt. Almost able to take Icy out, but instead going to be taken out by Quidgible for just a moment. And Narbles able to pick up Fenrir right afterward. Going to find Frosty with the headshot. It is Narbles all day long. Already 60% to that high noon, and already finding 2 eliminations early on, a 4v6 in favor of our attackers. And not only do they have a very mild spawn advantage, but they've got the numbers.
Yeah, there is going to be a bit of a recontest, it looks like, from Wild. No, they actually decide to back it as they almost die. Quidgible was about to chase them all the way across the ends of the earth, but decides to back it at the last second. And, I mean, there again, it's the Ryan difference, right? The Reinhardt dies on one side quickly for UCD. They got really no chance of winning that fight. And, I mean, right now, Boise State Orange, they're still pushing into this. Their card is all the way behind them.
Yeah, the cart is all the way behind. It looks like they're just going to leave somebody there. It's going to be Pleb, that poor lad, stuck on that cart all by himself. Quidgible is going to be able to find Oompa Loompa with the charge, actually, which is a lot of fun. Those boosters coming out from that Diva. And now Oompa Loompa does have the Shatter, but as does Icy. Quidgible looks like they're going to take quite a bit of damage here in the matchup, trying to get out. It looks like they may be able to do so. The numbers advantage for this team will disappear just as quickly as they got it. Boise State Orange does not get to take full advantage of the 5v6, but now pushing out of the high ground, they're going to try again. Icy's Shatter blocked by Frost. Unfortunately, not going to come through, in the bomb coming out a little bit more aggressive there. Quidgible isn't able to find any value with that quite yet.
Umbaluba, though, goes a bit too close. The sun ends up falling, and now the fight is finally going towards the cart, and it is a 5-on-4.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to see a lot more damage coming out from Onizuka and Wild, both able to find some kills onto that main tank and main support coming through. 4 ultimates online currently for UC Davis, and unfortunately, they have really started to take some things and turn around here. So if you were rooting for Boise Orange, they are starting to struggle quite a bit on this offense.
Yeah, it was a good push, but they didn't play the cart. They took the fight off the cart, and you never want to do that as an attacker because you actually have an advantage. The cart heals you passively and only when you're not taking damage, but if you're able to block some shots or dodge them, you're able just to heal up without any healers actually being there. So they're taking the fight away from the objective. That was not a smart plan, but they are back on the cart now.
Yeah, and Fenrir going to go with the Amplification Matrix hyper early on. Going to find some great value. Going to find Nerdy Bird with the headshot there, so the beat taken offline. 3 ultimates remaining here on the side of Boise Orange, but I doubt they're going to be using them in a fight where they've lost Quidgible as well out of that mech, so it's going to be an instant 4v6.
And this is just them chasing down the kills right now, but they might actually be traded out just a little bit. No, Icy is gonna get the trade, but it's not gonna be too advantageous as both of them will respawn at about the exact same time. And at this point, the spawns are almost equal distance. I think the biggest thing right now is that the ultimate economy is just a little bit better for Boise State Orange because of Icy getting that kill. So that charge, even though they ended up giving Morale charge, they also got a ton more. And now look at how they're rotating. They're trying to go straight to the fight to them.
Oh, that's a double kill, I think. Yep, Wild. That was a great combination coming through there. We saw the shatter out from Oompa Loompa, and Wild just booped both Quidgeable and Frost right into the abyss there. So a phenomenal turnaround for them.
And I feel like we're seeing something very similar. Clip does get 2 on the way out, but that's not going to be enough.
Again, just not enough.
Yeah, Boise State, they do great at the beginning of maps, and then it kind of starts to, I would say, fan out. You know, they're just not able to find that same hot streak. They're just not able to find the ultimate usage they want. They use the shatter there. It's not what they need. The walls so far from Frosty have been really good. And it looks like Frosty is kind of winning the battle of the maze right now, as well as the battle of the Frost names.
Yeah, the Battle of the Frost names is being won indeed by UC Davis. We're going to see that rotation up around the high ground, and we saw this earlier in one of our matchups between Neely and myself. We saw they go for this attempt, and then actually very similar, the Matrix on the high ground, but then they just rotate it out of the way. All it takes is that control button. You just crouch down a little bit, and that High Noon is not going to find any kind of damage. Again, a Fire Strike caught by Frost's wall, so Icy not getting any kind of damage moving forward. Here comes Onizuka with that High Noon of their own from the high ground, but I don't think they have the angle they want to find it. Looks like they're going to have to give up on it pretty quickly. ECAL and now in that Diva again, trying to move forward and get any kind of value before losing that mech, and they're going to be able to, but UC Davis, I feel they just hardly won that fight there. A shatter coming out from Oompa Loompa. Here comes the bomb from ECAL. Nerdy Bird already offline. The beat, I mean, I'm surprised it hasn't been dropped yet.
And look right now where Narbles is. They're completely out of the fight. I mean, it was a kind of interesting rotation, I would say. Like, I was really surprised that Boise State didn't drop immediately after the Ant Matrix was thrown out. I mean, like, just to drop off the high ground. The angle is not going to be good enough for them to kind of hit you from there, as looking straight ahead as opposed to, you know, on the side where then it could have hit you. And then Narbles gets completely separated from the rest of the team. Everyone kind of gets stuck in the health pack room, but then the Maywall comes in, the self-destruct doesn't find anything, but it still zones them out. It just, you know, Boise State, they're not making the right plays right now, even when they should be winning fights.
Yeah, you've got to think maybe they're starting to panic a little bit. We talked about this briefly earlier. They do great at the start of a map, and then they really start to slip and kind of mess up toward the middle and end of the map. And also, we've seen, I mean, probably hundreds of carts stalled right here. ECAL gonna get a great eat there, and a bomb coming out from Quidgeable, only able to take out Fenrir's Immortality Field. Pleb gets frozen up by Frosty. He's gonna get Frosty's gonna, oh no, Pleb! Oh, gets booped over the wall by ECAL there. Talk about unfortunate. That's not gonna be exactly what they want to see.
Yeah, Quidgeable right now trying to do their best, but there's only so much you can do as a lone Diva that's left alive. Oh no, do not fly back into that fight. Just get out of it while you can. Use those boosters to get back to your team. Frost is gone. You don't give up that extra ult charge, but are not going to have much to work with. They do have an Ant Matrix. They do have a Shatter. They do have almost a Deadeye. So that is a little bit more than what's online right now for UCD. So even though they have less ultimates, I just feel like the positioning and the rotations have been so good here in Iconwall that they should win this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And something of note is you commented when the cart had reached that corner, the first corner of bridge, we talked about how close the spawns were and how it's kind of a spawn advantage for neither team. But now our defenders can just get so much faster to this fight, especially when they hold the high ground like this. They can ensure that this is going to take longer for the attacking team to return to that fight, and over. We're going to see that Ant Matrix, that High Noon, neither of them are going to get the value they want. And it's going to be 2 seconds, but a double shatter on the high ground is going to help make this fight last just a little bit longer there. We're going to hear the High Noon coming out from Onizuka now, and it looks like he's not going to be able to find anything. Nerdy Bird going to be taken out by ECAL with those boosters. The third booster kill of this round, and Wild finds Pleb. Frost finds Oompa Loompa, but it is far too late to get anything done. ECAL is going to find Icy, and now the numbers just in favor of UC Davis as well as the spawn. Here comes a bomb from ECAL in a desperate attempt to keep them off point. It gets the job done, and they stall things here right before bridge on Iconwall.
And we'll have to see exactly where the capture point is to end this map, but I remember talking about this actually last week with Boise State Orange. It always seemed like the cart stopped in some of the weirdest of positions. Like, you wouldn't expect it to be there, generally just because of how Overwatch is and usually where teams take fights, but this is another one you usually don't see right before the bridge. It's usually right on it or right before the capture point, if you're able to get it under that archway, or sometimes it's even right underneath the archway, but it's never usually, you know, between the bridge and the archway. This is not usually something you see every day, but it is going to be where they need to get the cart if they want to win the series. For UC Davis, for Boise State, they know they have to have a good first point defense. That's like the biggest thing right now. They need to be able to hold on for just a while. And actually looking at where the cart does need to go, it is the bridge. So, you know, it was just where the cart ended up. It moved a little bit farther back. It's at the beginning of the bridge, which I feel like that's generally a much more expected place of where it could end up. So no surprises at the end of the day. But for Boise State, they have to win this. They have to hold this for a while if they want to get back into this series.
Absolutely. Like you said, first point defense, arguably the most important defense of playing on a hybrid map like this one. You want to try and stall them for as long as possible to not take the cart, because of course the longer it takes them to cap the cart, the less time they have in the end game to push the cart as far as possible. And now being stalled at the front of the bridge, definitely a little bit unusual. But like you said, they were able to make their way just barely onto the bridge, and they move a little bit closer into that expectation of Overwatch, but still you rarely see it stalled anywhere before that second point cap after that arch, like you said. And now moving forward, it's going to be that mirror matchup all over again. We saw this work out, I mean, arguably better in favor of UC Davis, right? Because they were able to stall the card from getting all 3 points, and now Oompa Loompa finds an immortality field. Fenrir's immo is gone as well, and it looks like we might see a bit of a May battle here. It looks like Frosty and Frost are going to be taken out by those McCrees respectively.
And right now, they just need to target focus someone on the side of UCD. There's so many people flanking all the way around, and they do take out the Lucio as well. This is a 5v4 right now, and I mean, they've got the better spawn, so they should just run in and try to take this fight.
Yeah, they should definitely, like you said, just run in, try to take it. You've got the better spawn, you've got the numbers. You want to take this as fast as possible. The counter charge coming out from Icy and Oompa Loompa, but Onizuka is going to be there to clean up Icy. Pleb now has that. Oh, never mind, 3-man shatter. That's much more important coming out here from Oompa Loompa. Able to find 2 with that fire strike as well in ecal with another booster kill. At the beginning of this game, I said, oh, you don't see those very often. And I think that's the 4th one we've seen.
Yeah, I used to see that a lot back during the GOATS meta, right? Because you could push people off.
Right.
It does a little bit of damage, actually, when you bump into them. So if they're super weak, you might be able to find that finishing blow just by nudging into them. But usually you'll follow it up with a melee. But regardless, we said that Boise State had to have a good defense. And they, unfortunately, for themselves, did not. UCD, they are on a bit of a roll right now. Their ult economy is looking a bit better. They do commit the shatter, but it's a worthwhile shatter. Knocked everyone down from Boise State Orange. They had no chance of recontesting that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Diva's boosters do 10 damage on impact. So it's like a very small amount of damage, but definitely damage nonetheless. And Fenrir is going to be able to pop that Amp Matrix, and here comes one from Pleb as well. Quidgeable committing that bomb, most likely just to get a second one, but might be able to get now. No eliminations there. Wild, however, is able to find that double boop onto Pleb and Narbles, I believe, off the map, off the staircase. Onizuka finds Nerdy Bird, Oompa Loompa, able to take out Frost in the process, and the eliminations and ultimates both in favor of UC Davis right now.
And right there, if you're Boise State, you've got to know when to take that fight. I mean, you've got the high ground, but you just want to poke for a little bit, and then you want to drop when it gets to the arch. But you do not want to play it when it gets out at the gate. You give up all of your positioning there, and now look at who's holding the high ground. It's going to be the team that just won that fight.
Yep. And the high ground, it's definitely weird here because you'd think you want to play that cart pretty consistently because, as Jack mentioned earlier, you do get that passive healing. But when you get to bring the hyper aggression like this and you get to eliminate a team before they get a chance to fight back, that's exactly what you want to do. And ecal and Onizuka are going to very desperately try to make that happen. Ecal with the double, Onizuka able to find one, but still, it looks like somehow, some way, Boise may be able to turn this fight around.
The tanks are the only ones alive right now for Boise State, but the DMAC might be the end of that. I feel like if you're Ice, you just got to run for the hills. But I mean, even as a baby diva, even as a pilot diva, they get a kill onto the main healer. This is actually looking great for Boise.
Absolutely. Boise definitely trying to make the magic happen here just a little bit. Frost is trying to bring the heat.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, but ecal taking out Narbles this close. Narbles just got staggered pretty much into oblivion.
And what was that sound barrier? Was really interesting. I thought they were going for a boop, but instead they went all the way around. But I think this May Blizzard is going to be the end of this one.
Yeah, that May Blizzard's probably going to put a cap on this one. And Quidgeable commits the bomb, able to find Wild, but you're still already so drastically outnumbered. Folks, I've got some good news. That is going to be the first victory of UC Davis here for, I mean, what is this, 6 weeks? This is going to be their first victory online.
It's not their first map win. They did win one against
Correct.
earlier on. So this is now their third map win through 6 weeks. I'm not going to do that math in my head to figure out what that percentage is because I'm just too smooth brain, but that is going to be the boot play that we saw earlier on, so it worked out really, really well. And the underdogs win. I mean, we didn't know what sort of UCD we'd see today, especially with the fact that they're running a sub, but they're looking pretty good. And you got to wonder, maybe this is what they needed to kind of get into the season a bit earlier on. Maybe this call up from their JV varsity squad was what they really needed to start winning matches. And here today, at least, they are going to find one.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, like we talked about at the beginning of the matchup, maybe we see the aggression coming out from that sub. I mean, that really is going to make all the difference. That's definitely something to consider is, no offense again to the player they are substituting for, but we see Onizuka just doing a phenomenal job here so far, in particular on that McCree.
It might be, we don't know exactly the inner workings because we talked about how the person they're filling for right now, I'm going to look up their name, Juicy Steak,
Yes.
is known for Echo, and that's a projectile hero. So you might be putting yourselves at kind of a disadvantage if you're running double projectile. You usually want at least one of each, one projectile hero, one hit scan hero, because hit scan can deal with things like an Echo or a Pharah or a Tracer a little bit better than projectile heroes usually can. So you want to just have, one of each role. And now that they're running, one of each, maybe that's what they needed to get to win. It's also about hero pools, right? So maybe they do play projectile and hit scan DPS, but it's not the right hit scan. It could be,
Right.
maybe they're just a Tracer player. They don't really play McCree or Ash or any of those kind of things. So Onizuka coming in is going to be the difference maker today, but we don't know how things have been in the past. So we're just really speculating at this point.
Absolutely, it's all about that speculation, and you can hope that maybe Boise gets to put something under their belts. They don't want to walk away with a 3-0. I think we've seen a couple 3-0s here tonight at NECC. I know that I just saw one right before this with Boise Blue actually in that matchup as well. So both of those teams showing their faces here tonight, and UC Davis could not give a larger congratulations to getting their first victory. Right, that is huge. It may take a little bit of while, but every win is a win nonetheless.
Yeah, and the question is, can they close out the series with a 3-0, or will Boise State be able to battle back and, unlike last week, take that last map away from UC Davis? It's still going to be a bit of a nail biter. I mean, these maps have been pretty close, I feel like, for the most part.
Right, yeah.
Like the first points looked amazing for both teams. Just the second point, it just didn't seem like Boise State knew what to do. They didn't know how to rotate through it. They would get split up. They didn't use ultimates in the right order. So it's the simplest of things that can have the biggest of consequences. You got to make sure that you're all on the same page with alt usage. You got to make sure you're all following the same path, taking the same high ground, and then maybe you drop off your McCree along the way and just let them, play from above. But everyone else has to really stick together in that comp. You just could see that they were not on the same page all the time.
Absolutely, and when you play comps like you see where somebody has to be sticking together, these teams have to be consistent with one another. It's as simple as that. You've got to be on the same page. You've got to have perhaps a shot caller. Maybe they don't have one of those. I of course can't hear any of their comms, but it really comes down to ultimate usage, and perhaps there's no coordination on. Okay, I'm going to shatter. Don't put your wall up, because I think we saw that 3 times on Eichenwald alone. So that is definitely not something you want to be keeping an eye out for. Also, or something you do want to be keeping an eye out for. I've been casting for a while today. My brain is starting to fail me just a little bit here, but we are just now passing midnight on the East Coast. So I've been I'm starting to run on my lower engine.
Yeah, so it's the backup engine. It's the backup generator. It's gonna kick in for at least a little bit as we go through this last map of the series. Looks like we're just waiting for teams to be readied up, but I think they're gonna be almost there in just a second. I'd be pretty surprised, honestly, if Boise State swaps things up and moves to defense. They have that option as the losing side. They can swap sides and try to play defense first instead, but they have been in the red all night. We'll see if they want to move over to the blue instead. But let's talk about comps. We talked about this very, very briefly before about how we thought Gibraltar would be a bit different than the other maps we've seen so far. And I'm wondering if we're going to see more of the double bubble or possibly more of the traditional dive, or maybe a hybrid dive.
Yeah, I think double bubble could get some great value here if they play it careful, and it looks like, maybe we see that value coming out, but then again, with the way Winston wants to push in on Gibraltar with those angles and with the walls, that especially on the high ground of first point, you see some great value coming in there if you have a diva to follow up rather than a Zarya to bubble you once, and then she can't get to the high ground as fast as a Winston can, so usually that may not work out as well here on first point.
And we got Beanie Bum coming in for Boise State, as they actually did move over to the blue side. So, my predictions have been completely thrown out the window. Don't listen to anything I say tonight, folks. But for UCD, they've made some changes too. Again, they're going to change up their tank line. Last time we saw just who played what was changed. Now ECAL is actually moving to support, it looks like, from what we see in lobby and wild. That support players moving up to tank. So the crazy amount of changes from both sides continue to roll through.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see. And honestly, you've already lost, you've already won, so you want to really figure out, try some other things, right? Maybe somebody wants to be a tank player moving forward, somebody wants to be a support player, so they're like, you know what? We'll give it a shot. We'll see how it works. This is, of course, about map differential, but you really don't get a better opportunity to practice comps like this. I mean, I guess you could just scrim, but, that's not as entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely not. I mean, scrims, I feel like they can be a lot of fun if you're winning, but when you're losing, it's like the worst feeling in the world. Even though it's not really about winning or losing in a scrimmage, it's all about practicing getting better. But, when points are on the line here, that's when the lights shine brightest. That's when you are most in the moment. Even when you're losing, you're going to feel kind of that competitive edge creep up on you. We'll see if Boise State can find their competitive edge in the last map of the series, or if UCD is going to put it away. We're about to get started in a moment. I want to see if we're going to I want to know if we're going to see the whole hog come out, or the pulled pork. That's the name of it. Whole hog is the ultimate, but the pulled pork is sometimes something that we'll see on attack at the very beginning. You know, teams will just run the Orisa Roadhog just to see if they could try to catch anyone on the high ground, and I feel like half the time it works out, half the time you get nothing.
Yeah, no, it's like you said, half the time it works out, half the time you get nothing. So you're going to need some great coordination. We talked about very briefly that coordination in terms of the comms may not be online, and if you're going to be bringing out that pulled pork, you've really got to have some just perfect comms. You really can't afford to be missing some shots.
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot. And I mean, it's just like something you like are on for a second. You never run Roadhog Orisa fully on a map. That hasn't been meta since like what, 2019? It's been a while.
Probably.
I remember that meta because I was playing Offtick at the time and I hated Roadhog. I know you like Roadhog, so this must break your heart hearing this, but I know there some teams, you know, in the Overwatch League at that time, this decided D.Va's a good counter because D.Va can eat the pull, which completely mitigated that whole composition. You know, I was thinking, why didn't we just think of double shield at the time? Just run Reinhardt Orisa. And that would have been the beginning of something awful as it became later on with double shield. But at least we're out of that for now, right? I mean, double shield has not really been a thing for a little bit now.
Yeah, double shield has not been showing its face quite as often as we've seen recently in some other matchups and some other situations as a whole. But now it's it's jumping between that double bubble and that brawl comp coming from that Rein Zarya.
Yeah, so I think those are the two main comps. You do still see sometimes the Wrecking Ball and the Sigma. I saw it actually in Contenders Trials recently, but it was not on the winning side usually. I think that's something that you can try to do on certain maps, and that's kind of the meta of old. It was, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago that this was really big. I remember you and I were doing the EBC majors with British Hurricane, and every team there was running it then. But
every single team.
Yeah, that was a long time ago at this point. So, you know, you can try to run old metas, especially if you were good at them, but meta is meta for a reason. It's because usually the heroes that you were playing before just aren't as good as they used to be, whether it's balance changes to them themselves or their counters are just getting buffed.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just seen a lot of, you know, we talk a little bit about that power creep in Overwatch and how that may be kind of an unnecessary thing of where instead of nerfing the stronger characters, they make other people stronger to counter them, and then it kind of falls into this spiral matchup. And now, you know, hopefully they go through and they're making some changes very soon. They got in touch with a lot of pro players, a lot of content creators, and they've been looking into changing a lot of things up in the experimental, which I'm very excited to see.
Yeah, I really want to see that experimental tournament, and I want to see how it plays out. I might be, you know, might have some connections now with some of those players that were talking about it, but I'll get more info about that on my own Twitter at some point. Just giving myself my own plug there.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, some exciting news in my own life coming up soon. But we're going to be talking about this game. No one cares about what's going on with me. As we get into Gibraltar, we'll see how this map pans out. And I do think we'll be seeing double bubble more than anything else. Teams could try to commit. For the brawl, though, they could just try to play point. It's usually not the best way to play this map, especially first and second point, because of all the high ground. But it looks like, at least from the side of Boise State, they are going to try to run the brawl on defense. I feel like that's something you can run a lot better on attack here than defense. Yeah. I mean, you can't really contest high ground except for D.Va.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not going to work out like you want it to, especially because the D.Va can maybe she can fight on the high ground and the low ground, but the Rein can't keep up, right? The Rein can drop down to the low ground, but then he's not going to be able to keep up. Similar energy to what I was talking about earlier of the Winston Zarya, where Zarya can bubble the Winston, but it's going to take her a bit to get up there. He can just leap up there and, you know, A-okay. But it looks like we may be seeing Frosty go for that teleport strat that we've seen twice. I've seen twice, at least today, where they teleport onto the adjacent high ground from the high ground of spawn, and then they rotate in and around. But it looks like we may see Boise State. They may just be ready for that because they are currently in the health pack room of that very same building.
Yeah, we'll see how this pans out. They just want us. I mean, this is kind of like the Dorado hold, right? You just want to play in the doorway and make sure it doesn't get any movement, but they're going to move out of this really early on, and I don't think they're going to win this because look at the Brigida. The Brigida is actually going to be a huge part of this comp right now for UCD. She's just going to be able to do so much healing and so much damage as she continues to just hit her primary fire.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of slow burn coming out here. Nobody's taken offline quite yet, but we see a little bit of damage onto Frost, and they are going to be taken out, pay the price of their life for that aggression. And Oompa Loompa back on the Zarya, which, yeah, okay, we saw them frag out on earlier. Looks like they're going to be fragging out on here as well. Ecal on the Brigida, able to find Beanie Bum, and Onizuka, the first to fall on the side of UC Davis.
And they were able to sustain a little bit longer. You saw there was a great sleep, there was some great CC. Also, the shield bash, I think, was actually what got the first kill onto Frost. So all around, these support players are hitting their marks when need be. Sleep dart a bit more impressive with it being the hardest projectile in the game to land, but regardless, stuns are going to come out in their favor. And I think this might be why Wild swapped. Maybe, you know, the tanks usually for UCD just aren't as comfortable on the Winston, but Wild might just be that flexible that they can run this character well.
Perhaps Wild is a bit of a Winston specialist. You'd love to see it. And Frosty lands the pulse bomb there, but unfortunately there is going to be that immortality field from Pleb. We're going to hear a rally from ECAL already getting hyper aggressive, moving forward. The wall coming out from Frost, trying to keep the team alive. Here's a high noon from Narbles, a bit of a cheeky one at that. The nano boost being committed onto Wild as well. Grab coming out from Oompa Loompa, so they want to win this fight, and they're willing to commit every ultimate they have to do it. 4 eliminations, make it 5. It looks like it's going to come into a full 6. Athena will tell us in just a moment that a team kill is now on the line there for UC Davis. They are rolling through Gibraltar right now.
And they still have a good amount of ultimates. They did commit maybe too much there. I think they used 4 in that fight overall. But what they have right now still should be enough to counteract the support ultimates on the other side. My guess is that they want to try to duplicate the Reinhardt, but they get a huge anti-nade to start things off.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive anti-nade coming through, but Beanabum is going to be able to drop the beat here, and it looks like Frost with the Blizzard as well. So they're really trying to find a defense here in this final push. 2 minutes off the clock, so if they take this one, they can burn maybe 30 to 40 more seconds. And now it looks like they're going to be able to. Both Onizuka, ECAL, and now Oompa Loompa are gone. So that's going to be a first fight win here for Boise. It's taken a little while, but better late than never.
Yeah, but it works out wonders because you get out very important ultimates. Both the Primal Rage and the Duplicator down the drain. As you saw, Wild just got immediately frozen up as they tried to jump in with their leap. And now the ultimate economy is actually working out a little bit in the favor of Boise State. The other thing is that they've just been able to kill so much time off the clock because of that original stall. I mean, they ended up losing it, but it's just like Havana, it's just like Dorado. You're not playing to win that point right there. You're just playing to make less time available for a team that's on attack, and they did it perfectly.
Absolutely. They did exactly what needed to be done there, and hopefully they're going to be able to get that job done all the same. UCD now with a bit of a weird high ground advantage. Oompa Loompa 95% on grab, which could of course be huge, but now your support line's gone. You commit Pulse Bomb, but it may already be too late for this fight. You cannot get healed up. Every bullet really does start to matter in that case, and Wild dives perhaps just a little bit too late.
Yeah, just a little bit too late. You got to make sure that your dives are well timed with your Echo and your Tracer. You want to find those instant one taps. It doesn't matter who gets the kill. You know, credit at the end of the day, it's a team effort in that sort of scenario. Good news for you is that you do have the Graviton Surge, but Frosty, if they'd held on to their Pulse Bomb, that could have been an enormous ultimate because there's no Immortality Field, there's no defensive ultimate on the side of UCD right now, so just some misplays there with their ultimates.
Absolutely, a couple of misplays indeed. And Fenrir are going to be committing that nano super early on, trying to find some great value with it onto Wild, and I don't think Wild's able to find anything from it quite yet. Onizuka taken out by Narbles. Here's another super aggressive high noon, a shatter coming out from Icy as well, a double high noon. That's going to be a phenomenal look there. So we see Narbles is able to take Fenrir and Wild out. ECAL going to be the next to fall, kick it into overtime. A fight that looked so convincing in favor of UC Davis is all of a sudden just looking great for Boise.
And what set that all up, it was Kujable with the E. We've seen some really hungry divas tonight. The defensive matrix has been able to gobble up all ultimates in sight. The Graviton Surge, it was the last chance for UCD to get any sort of push there, and it goes right down Diva's matrix. So unfortunate timing on that one. We'll see, though, if Boise State can have as good of an offense as they did defense, because, you know, we've seen situations where they've had winnable maps and it just has never seemed to work out. But this is possibly the most winnable one I've seen so far. The cart just needs to really, it doesn't even get all the way to first point, just a little bit before where the cap would be to get into on second point. So I think if there's any time to win a map, it's going to be now, and I'm sure they don't want to be shut out once again.
Yeah, the only guarantee here is we will not see the rest of Watchpoint Gibraltar. It will be one, either be the cart reaching first point or the cart not. It really is as simple as that. Second and third point will not be seen here today in this final matchup of NECC tonight.
Yep, absolutely. It's gonna be a winner no matter what for UCD, right? Like, that's already been decided. But is it gonna be the solid 3-0, or is it just gonna be a bit closer 2-1? And you know, this is an interesting style. I remember how it was in Overwatch League a long time ago when they played like this, and it always felt like the last map didn't, you know, matter that much to teams. But I feel like that's just the wrong mentality to have, because map differential going into playoffs is so important. I don't think either of these teams really can make playoffs at this point because they're so low in the standings, but you know, at that point, you're just playing, you know, for yourself. You're playing just to, you know, say that you won something. You want to have something to take away from this matchup.
Absolutely. Just because you aren't able to make it into playoffs does not mean you should, you know, give up. You want to put in your 100% as often as you can. And now Icy and Quidgeable, looks like they're going to be getting first corner for free. So that's going to be kind of huge here for this tank line. UCD, looks like they're going to be playing a little bit patient, perhaps waiting for them to drop into the valley there before choosing to engage. But you really don't want to be giving up this much free space when the only way you can be beaten is just on the other side.
Yeah, and usually you want to play blue boxes as a dive comp here, but with the point being so close to, ending the game and their end objective so close to where the card is right now, I don't think you can really play blue box, and yeah, they're gonna have to drop down.
Yeah, this is going to be quite insane here, and it looks like Oompa Loompa is going to be able to find the immortality kill from Pleb. And oh, okay, that got super close there. Narbles is going to be able to take out Ecal too, so they really might win without breaking a sweat here. Pleb is able to find Wild, Fenrir's gone, Frosty's gone. They lost Bean Bum, but at this point, what does that matter? That was another team kill, and Boise Orange, they wait to the last minute, but they come in strong as ever here on Gibraltar.
Yeah, you got to think if they've been able to play Eichenwald like this could have been a much closer series overall, but they do show up on the last map. They do take one away from UCD, so it won't be the perfect victory here today for UCD, but they do get their first one. So, there's a lot of good vibes going around. Everyone's a winner one way or another, right, from this series, but it is going to be UCD feeling a bit better after this one. They tried running this dive comp with Wild. It didn't work out. But that might be what happens when you put a support player onto main tank. I know I would never be able to do this as well as they do. So unfortunately, they dropped the one. But again, they do finally get a W in their column.
Yeah, they do get a W in that column indeed. And because, folks, we have gone just a wee bit over schedule tonight, there will not be an interview, so we are going to be closing it out now. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. Big shout out to UCD and BSU for joining us in this rather late time slot. Unless you're on the West Coast, but I feel it's still kind of on the later side.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so we make sure our viewers are aware, the top 6 out of the 8 in this division do make playoffs. So there is a possibility that they both end up making it with one win. We'll have to see how that ends up going. It's a small slight possibility, but there are still a few more weeks to go here in NECC, so the story isn't over for either of these teams just yet.
Absolutely, the story not over quite yet, but the story tonight, my friends, is finally going to come to a close. One big shout out to NECC for having us, a big shout out to everybody watching in chat, and a shout out to both of the teams for joining us. I've been Septilence, joined by Jag. Everybody, check your posture, drink some water, and don't forget to love each other. We'll see you guys next week.